Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Puppypaw versus Beasty. This is the quarterfinals of the Draft of Empires tournament hosted by Blade555. I will drop a link to his channel down in the description. Make sure you check him out and give him some love for hosting this event. Prize pool is around $1,400, $1,500 at the time of this video being recorded, but that might change tomorrow when the semifinals are being broadcast. Anyway, we will have to the south Puppypaw playing as Jeanne d'Arc, and to the north it is going to be Beasty with the Order of the Dragon. Now, rules for this tournament is that you pick the civilization of the opponent here. So Jeanne d'Arc was chosen for Beasty, or by Beasty for Puppy to play with, and Puppy chose the Order of the Dragon to give to Beasty. A curious choice given the fact that Beasty in general likes to play with the HRE. So it's going to be interesting to see how Beasty approaches the Order of the Dragon, an HRE variant civilization here. For now, it's going to be a fairly standard start as we kick off the first game of this best of 3 here on Shamble Hill. This is a custom map that was made for Rising Empire's mapping competition back in the past. And you see, it's a kind of reminiscent of King of the Hill a little. There is a strong focus over the middle with the 2 major gold mines being there. And in fact, aside from your starting gold mines, the only gold that you will find on the map is going to be in the middle. But one big difference is that you have 3 sacred sites kind of split into these segments, I guess. There is the central segment surrounded by the 2 forests, and then there is a south and a north segment that you can go to. Stone is quite plentiful, though. You see 2 starting stone mines and even a large deposit fairly close to the starting town centers. Quite some wood to work with as well for both players. So this is the first time that we are seeing these civilizations in a tournament competitive setting. We've seen numerous show matches being played with the new civilizations, but we haven't really seen them in a tournament setting. This is really the first trial of these civilizations in a tournament setting. Beast is going to open with the Minework Palace, something that we commonly see for the Order of the Dragon. Obviously, with the massive eco boost that you get for your dragon villagers, the Aachen Chapel is just less intriguing as compared to what it is for ordinary HRE, and there is just a lot more merit in being able to pick up some of the unique upgrades of the HRE, especially for the melee infantry and cavalry even. At the same time, on the other side, standard opening here by Jeanne d'Arc, you see there is Jeanne. Here right now, we're talking about a slight building construction speed boost for Jeanne. So that's part of the reason why Jeanne is being one of the 2 villagers committed to building the School of Cavalry. Obviously, as Jeanne collects more experience, we will see an evolution into a different type of unit. And it's going to be interesting to see what Puppypaw chooses to go for when it comes to the choice of the unit that Jeanne is going to be converted into. Looking at the bases real quickly, one thing I'm kind of noticing is that Beasty has both of his gold mines to the front, which is rather uncomfortable. Especially when you're playing against a French civilization, and especially when you're limited on the amount of units that you can pop out here. So, with the Order of the Dragon, every spearman you make is very tanky, but they're very expensive as well. You won't have dozens of spearmen running around your base. So a player that has a lot of knights can stretch your defense out, and you might find windows where there is simply no spearmen because Beasty cannot afford to have a large amount of them. Granted, if they engage in melee against the knights, they will decimate them, but I feel like the way for Puppy to approach this is build on knights and build on the fact that Beasty won't be able to afford having a large amount of spearmen, at least not in early feudal age. Feudal Age coming in here for both players. Minework Palace will be complete as well for Beasty. He's trying to kind of spread out the hunt here from Puppypaw. Just making sure that it's going to be less comfortable for Puppypaw to take. Looks like Puppy doesn't really have any strong desire to go on the hunt here. He kind of ran out of sheep. This delivery of sheep was kind of late to his DC. He had to go on berries, something that was scouted by Beasty. First night on the way though. Jeanne is still standard villager level though, so no shenanigans from there. Love this wall from Beasty. Will limit Puppy's ability to flank around and hit this wood line from the north, which is, I think, immensely valuable for Beasty. This landmark itself is kind of body blocking lumberjacks, and it makes it so much more difficult for Puppypaw to get good value for those knights. First knight is going to just go straight ahead, targeting the gold mine. arrow slits coming in early for Beasty here. He opted to... where did the stone come from? Yeah, you see, Beasty took some stone here to afford arrow slits. And this actually makes this tower a lot more problematic for Puppy to deal with. And I think that's a great move here for Beasty. He knew fully well that against a French civilization, you need to have a defense on your gold mine. And that's exactly what Beasty went for. Committed to a defensive tower. This will protect both the gold miners and also the berry villagers. And look at the quick reaction here by Puppypaw. His immediate reaction is essentially sending all of these knights, or well, just the one knight for the time being. But his reaction was to send this knight around and just try to hit the lumberjacks from the north, but that's why Beasty made those walls. Beasty was prepared for this counterattack. Hopefully you didn't hear that much of an echo on the game volume up until now. I kind of forgot to switch my audio output to my headset, because normally I use my speakers. I just don't feel comfortable wearing a headset all day. But anyway, hopefully you didn't hear much of an echo from the game audio. If you did, I apologize. Anyway, for the time being, Beasty's defense here is strong and Puppy doesn't really have a window to attack. But now Jean has been upgraded to this woman-at-arms unit. Will make it a lot more reasonable to charge in alongside the knights. And now we're starting to see this move from Puppypaw, stretching out the defense, sending a knight to the north, and just keeping a couple back here around the gold mine. Good reaction from Beast. I kind of like this. He goes for these horsemen, but these are gilded horsemen. These guys are no pushovers. They are not as tanky as the knights are, but when you want to keep track of these knights, you need to have mobility, and these horsemen give you that. Beasty, if he goes for a decent amount of horsemen, he can actually kind of match the knights, and that will allow him to quickly react to any kind of raid that comes in from Puppypaw. Puppy is going heavy on the knights, by the way, has a second stable already. And it looks like Beasty is just kind of working his way towards the wolves. Now, when it comes to the wolves here, you have to highlight that I think Jean gets experience for killing wolves. You most definitely get experience for killing boars, but you also get experience for Jean if you kill wolves, I think. So that would legitimize Beasty taking down these wolves, just to make sure that Puppypaw cannot get experience from them. There's Jean going aggressive over here, underneath the tower, takes a lot of damage. And Beasty's going to send that gilded horseman around. And you see, this guy is tanky. 15 base attack is no pushover either, and these villagers, they do not have textiles. A couple more pokes could actually take down a villager here. Indeed, Beasty's gonna get away with a pick. First player to make a kill here in this game is gonna be Beasty, not the French player. Range defense coming in here for Beasty. He's preparing for archers, or well, maybe you think that's the case, but honestly, based on Beasty's posturing here, I feel like this is more just a message being sent towards that town center, saying, look, I'm not gonna be afraid to charge under the town center. I'm going to get range defense, so I can aggressively fight underneath your town center and keep raiding you. And this is one of those unique moments where it's the French player being the defender, not something that you see every day, and usually a very bad sign for a French player. With the French, you always want to be the tempo setter, the aggressor, and that's just not there right now for Puppypaw. And this is where I want to highlight the walls, the difference between the approaches taken by these two players. Beasty committed to these walls, makes it a lot more difficult for Puppypaw to raid. There are no walls over here for Puppy. He has to chase these gilded horsemen with his own knights, and that's part of the reason why he simply cannot be the aggressor right now. Puppy up to 8 knights over here. There is also now the boost of production, or well, it's not really a boost of production, it's more of a discount that you get for your food cost here for units, the consecration coming out of Jeanne d'Arc. Nice little fight over here for Puppypaw, gets a kill on those gilded horsemen. Needless to say, with these units being extremely pricey for Beasty, losing them, every single one of them, is a pain. 200 food, 40 wood. He needs to pay extreme attention to avoid losing them. He does have a prelate, I think, somewhere back at home. He should. Order of the Dragon does start with... never mind, I'm confusing things. I'm actually... Yeah, never mind. Never mind. Forget what I said. Let's not forget, folks, this thing has been out for just a couple of days, so I'm still somewhat in the learning process of these new civilizations. Anyway, big low fight over here in the middle. Nice engagement. Beast is trying to focus down Jeanne d'Arc over here, trying to get the kill, and it looks like he will. A lot of XP there for Jeanne d'Arc, but Jeanne d'Arc gets taken down here in this engagement. Some of the horsemen also fell in this battle, but it's still a good engagement for Beastie. Looking to capitalize on that, trying to charge in, and you see, when you have a 15 base attack, 4 horsemen can actually one-shot a villager. That's what Beastie is trying to build on here. Still 3 horsemen around, a lot of gold miners out here. Puppypaw finally committing to a wall. Makes it a little bit more difficult for Beast to run circles around him, but still gets some nice charges going. Pathfinding kind of tricking Beastie over here, though, running into the knights, now into the town center fire. Not really a lot of places to go to. I think he just now scouted the wall. Kind of feels trapped in here right now, loses another horseman. And Puppy is gaining momentum here. Beastie is down to 3 horsemen, 2 spearmen. Puppy's up to 12 knights. That's an amount where you can start splitting up to smaller groups, and Beastie could have a hard time catching up with all of those groups with only a handful of spearmen available. For now, defense is strong for Beastie over here, making a strong transition to farms. He already has a very well set up farming eco. On the other side, basically none of that is there for Puppy. His food eco isn't really sustainable right now. He's just exclusively on berries right now in an exposed position. It's not like Beastie has the tools to punish this exposed group of villagers right now, but the sustainability is just not there for Puppypaw in terms of food eco. Beastie on the other side, he's been heavy on the farming, made a complete farm transition now, has a respectable amount of gold income as well. Makes me wonder if he wants to go up to Castle Age here. When he does, he's going to get access to the Gilded Knights, and that could be a unit that can deal with these knights very well. At the same time, another counterattack here from Beastie, gets another villager pick. These Gilded Horsemen having been lost is always a pain for Beastie, but he gets good value for these. He killed 4 villagers already from his opponent, and might even get a 5th one over here as Jeanne is coming with the sword being swung. 5th villager killed by Beastie here, a lot of damage done with just a handful of horsemen. Beastie now piling up the resources for Castle Age here. He has done a masterful job keeping Puppy inside his base, and Puppy hasn't really been able to use these knights. When you look at this number, 19 Feudal Age knights for a French player, you usually anticipate villager kills, but they are just nowhere to be found. 0 villager kills so far by Puppypaw, and that is by far the biggest concern for him at this point in this game. He's gonna get beaten to Castle Age, and probably the strongest window, at least in early mid-game for French, that is early to mid-Feudal Age, that is now gone. He wasn't able to get any kind of eco advantage in there, he wasn't able to damage Beastie's eco, and now Beastie is in a very nice and safe, confined position, gets a wall up here on the flank as well, makes sure that the only real surface that Puppypaw can aggress is going to be the gold mine, and he's got a lot of spearmen there to defend that with. Still no aggression coming out here for Puppypaw. I'm just so puzzled about this. When he sees Beastie reach Castle Age, he has to go. That is your go-to sign. Your opponent just spent a bunch of resources on aging up. You have to punish that. And he does have the army to do that with. 21 villagers can almost ignore all these spearmen, and they can just dive on the villagers. The moment this notification is delivered to Puppypaw, he's going to send in knights. He must do that. If he doesn't, he's going to be in trouble, and indeed, Castle Age in there for Beastie. Immediately upon that happening, Puppypaw is going to send out the knights. The target is clear. You gotta cause eco damage. Here come the knights. One small group coming in here from the flank, but the real force is now coming in through the middle, and that is no pushover. 23 knights out here with a very good average HP as well, only a handful of them being damaged. And that tower should not stand for a very long time. There is no fortification on it. Jean also coming in here to help. Jean does have the Holy Wrath over here. All charges are there, and she's going to engage this. Emergency repairs now coming in here for Beasty on the tower. Spearman standing strong, but no veterancy on them means that they won't be able to compensate for just the lack of numbers here. Gilded Knights coming in here for Beasty, though, and many of these Knights for Puppy fell to the Spearman. Arrowfire, of course, coming out from the town center and the tower helping as well, but a lot of idle time coming in here for Beasty as well. More Spearmen on the way. Good news for Beasty, though. Only one villager was killed. As crazy as it sounds like, it looks like he might be holding this. Jean's champion has been summoned by Puppy as well. He knows he needs to do some sort of a damage over here, but it's just so difficult. Even a handful of these Gilded Spearmen cause so much damage and pain on these Knights. Beasty has to evacuate the tower, though finally starts losing villagers over here. And what felt like an eternity for Puppypaw, he finally started to kill villagers, and that's what matters for him. Takes down the tower, cuts off Beasty from his gold. Beasty will struggle to put Knights on the field, but he manages to get one more Horseman out, one more Spearman as well. Puppy is pedal to the metal at this point, but has to make that nasty farm transition just now. We always talk about this, farm transition, a momentum killer that is. If the momentum shrinks here for Puppypaw, he's going to be in such a troublesome position. And look at Beasty. He sneaks out to the north, takes the berries so that his food eco is still intact, gets some more Horsemen out. He's still facing a lot of Knights here, but numbers have kind of shrunk here for Puppypaw. And I just don't know if there is enough momentum for Puppy. There are 3 production buildings over here for Knights, 2 stables and the School of Cavalry, all consecrated, yet only one of them is working. That is the level of strain that we have on the food eco from Puppypaw. Finally, this Knight finds the villagers. Very valuable intel over here for Puppypaw, but the villagers, they have sufficient numbers to take this Knight down, and Beasty is now bringing in relics. That passive resource income is going to be so vital, but his food is now running low as well. He's down by 10 villagers. Oh, this is so dicey. I feel like Puppypaw's momentum is shrinking very rapidly, but he still seems to have just enough to hold this position and shut down Beasty's food eco, making it extremely difficult for Beasty to clean this one up. Veterancy coming in on those Gilded Spearmen, though. When that hits, these guys become monstrous. And the fact that Beasty still has access to food and wood is essentially a lifeline to him right now. These 2 Gilded Spearmen, as crazy as it sounds like, that is essentially what he needs to clean this one up. Beasty needs to focus down the men-at-arms, or, well, more precisely, the champions, just to make sure that he only faces cavalry over here. And yeah, that's exactly what he needs to do. Take out the champions, and then the Spearman can potentially turn this around. New Knights are being routed to the north now. Jean gets back onto the battlefield. Puppy is still so reliant on these berries. This one is about to run out. Other one also close to depletion. He still has 12 Knights on the field, though. I just don't know how to call this game, folks. I feel like Puppy has what it takes to finish this, but we know how good Beasty is in just stalling games out and living to see another day. And I feel like he could do this again here. I feel like Puppy is minutes away from having all his momentum disappear simply due to the lack of food. And look at this. He's disengaging. Puppypaw is disengaging from this engagement. Exactly the window that Beasty needed. An opportunity to get back on the farms, get some more Spearmen out there, now with the veterancy, get back on that gold mine. And, oh, this is just the level of desperation we have here for Puppypaw. He wants to go for the berries of his opponent here. Needs to go for the berries of his opponent. He's just so desperate for food. Sean now coming in as a Knight here. Very tanky unit. Does have the Holy Wrath as well. Only 1 charge available, though. Tower once again completed, though, and that's going to help in this engagement. And now, these Gilded Spearmen, you just cannot fight them. 46 bonus damage with 15 base attacking as cavalry. That does 60 damage a hit. 4 hits are enough to take out one of these Knights. This is an engagement that Puppypaw can no longer take head-on. Bit of a sharing and caring scenario here on the berries, but these villagers will be taken down. Good news for Puppypaw is that he managed to kill a lot of villagers, and I think he also idled Beasty's TC quite a bit. So now he's up by 15 eco. It's not a true metric, simply because Beasty's villagers are a lot more efficient, and also Beasty does have 2 relics. But at the very least, Puppypaw is not behind in terms of economy. When you look at the overall resource income, actually that's rather lackluster, but I think some of that is just berries for Puppypaw. If this farming eco was set up well for Puppypaw, I think they would be kind of comparable. But right now it's kind of disappointing for Puppy. And that is a great concern for him, I feel. Still has a lot of knights, but now he's facing quite a few spearmen. And the prelates are also being rallied out here by Beasty just to make sure that he's got that combat healing as well. And the moment Puppypaw falls back, Beasty's gonna move for the relics towards the middle. This is such a tough position for Puppy. He's trying to raid, but there's just nothing to be raided without having to fight these spears. And that's exactly what's gonna happen. Spearmen will engage this once again. A Gilded Knight joins the fight as well. Tower to help as well. Prelates have been taken out, as I see, but the Knights, they're just being decimated over here. Jean once again falling, and these fights are awfully costly here now for Puppypaw. Lost a lot more value than what he destroyed here. 6,500 destroyed against 11,000. Goes to show the level of efficiency that Beasty is having with these fights. Opportunistic as ever, the moment Beasty saw that fight, he sent out some prelates to take the relics. And now he's up to 4 relics here as well. Tower does have a relic as well inside. Beasty has also been secretly mining some stone, or... did he buy it? He might have bought it, actually. Yeah, he bought the stone. Beasty bought enough stone for fortifications and a spring golden placement, making this position even more so difficult to push. Looks like we're gonna have some gilded crossbows as well. Those guys are no pushover either. In fact, I think this is where we have to highlight how one-dimensional the army of Puppypaw was. Exclusively knights. Obviously you had Jean as well and the champions too, which kind of works like a man-at-arms. It even has bonus damage against spearmen. But the problem that you're having here is that you don't have a direct counter that you can mass-produce against these spears. Beasty, now we'll start intercepting these vills. Gilded Knights do have a crazy damage output as well, so saving these villagers will be a challenge here for Puppypaw. So yeah, going back to the spearmen setup here that we have, Puppypaw has such a one-dimensional army. I don't think it's a very good idea to go heavy into archers in the long run against HRE, especially when your opponent is already in Castle Age. But we just have to accept the fact that these knights will never be able to break this defense of spearmen. Strong commitment to eco upgrades now coming in here for Beasty. He's realizing how underwhelming these aggression efforts are now from Puppypaw. And with that, he's going to capitalize on his position, start building up that juggernaut of an HRE, or even more so Order of the Dragon eco. And at the same time, Puppypaw is still in Feudal Age. He's still on 1 TC. And when you look at the overall resource income, now there is a definitive advantage for Beasty. He's going to have all 5 relics at his disposal as well. He's going to start capturing Sacred Sites soon too. And, I mean, Gilded Spearman Torch is dealing AoE damage. That kind of sounds crazy until you realize that all these farms could be burned in an instant by those spears. That's the next step for Beasty. His position is now secure, he's got all 5 relics. Next logical target is essentially the food eco of the opponent, going straight ahead. And I just dislike these spears being mixed in by Puppy. He's got half of the number compared to Beasty's. And Beasty has so much better of a quality over here. 3 melee armor, 15 base attack with 220 HP, as compared to 9 base attack with 1 melee armor and just 90 HP. These spearmen will have next to no effect on these battles here from Puppy, I feel. Preemptive Vololo here for Beasty. That is a desperate, well, not really a desperate move from Puppypaw, but rather a dangerous one. Pulls away just before the conversion hit. Beasty doing a great job pushing back those knights with the Vololo, allowing the tower to go up. So now we have an even more so fortified position here on the gold mine. Big clash about to happen in the middle. Puppypaw has been hiding these spears for quite a while, but again, I just feel like they will be non-factors. Even the Gilded Crossbow, 17 base attack on them, they can decimate those. Puppypaw is waiting for a counterattack opportunity, understanding that Beasty, his army is slow. If Beastie starts pushing his base, a counterattack can be devastating against his eco, so he's going to send the knights around. Beastie's going to try to trap this army over here. This is a dicey moment for Puppypaw. Needs to be cautious not to get caught with his back against the wall. But this counterattack just did not work out, and now the primary target, this big gold mine coming in here from Beastie. I just don't think Puppypaw has the army to defend this with. Spearmen looking for an engagement against the knights. They won't be given any so far, at least. Now, finally, the engagement happens, but with all these crossbows out here, with all these spearmen as well, Jean popping all her abilities, all the AoE attacks, all the heals, but even that is just insufficient here. These spearmen, the quality is better and the numbers are also better. These are Castle Age units that are way better than ordinary spearmen. Against the full Feudal Age army, Jean goes down in the fight. The entire army from Puppypaw just evaporates in an instant, and with that, Beastie takes game number 1. What a lovely matchup that we had over here between these two. I feel like there were windows here for Puppypaw, but I just want to go back to the very defensive game that Beastie played. And it all came down to those walls, I feel. I kind of highlighted how much he could struggle keeping track of smaller groups of knights with only a handful of spearmen. I loved how he went for the horsemen to keep track with the initial knights, even initiate some counterattacks. But what I loved even more was the walling. He walled himself and made it impossible for Puppypaw to raid. You see these windows. Puppypaw wasn't able to kill a villager until Beastie reached Castle Age. And that was just essentially a straight-up dive from Puppypaw, knowing that Beastie is going to have a very good window here if he doesn't punish that Castle Age. In the entire Feudal Age period, we did not see a single successful raid from Puppypaw, and that just goes to show how well Beastie adapted to this defensive approach, and how well he set his base up against this incoming French raid. All right, welcome to game number 2. I kind of wanted to have a bit of a discussion between the games over here in the lobby, but there were some issues that I had to fix in between the games. I just couldn't connect to one of these games. So, back I am. Let's take a look at game number 2 over here. Score is 1-0 for Beastie, so give me a second to add that. There we go. Beastie leading 1-0, as we'll have him spawning on the right side with the Byzantines. And on the left side, it is going to be Puppypaw playing as the ordinary HRE here in red. So, again, the setup of this tournament is that you draft civilizations for the opponent. So HRE was given to Puppypaw by Beastie, and then Beastie was given the Byzantines by Puppypaw. I love this setup, I think, for the Byzantines. I am not 100% certain how the HRE will approach this, but we'll have to see. For now, interesting opening here from Beastie. This is not something that you see in many of the build orders, players going straight ahead to berries. I'm not against this, because this means that you will get a lot of olive oil to start with, and I'm actually wondering if Beastie is going to use that to purchase mercenaries. I'm looking at this trade post. Mercenary Mangadai and Mercenary Desert Raider are the options here. Desert Raider unit that Beastie loves to use. The other market would give you Royal Knights and Horse Archers. Sneaking out here is near impossible. When I say near impossible, it doesn't mean it's fully impossible, especially against a slow-moving civilization like the HRE. But it would be kind of a crazy move from Beastie to go out here and build a mercenary camp. So I'm actually curious what his game plan is here, going heavy on the berries. But whatever he's planning, I have a feeling that it is going to rely very heavily on olive oil. On the other side, just good old-fashioned HRE that we have over here, starting with a Prelate. And yeah, this is one of the things I actually lost track of in the previous game. Order of the Dragon just unable to train the Prelate apparently on the TC. HRE, of course, getting a good use of that. A slightly unbalanced eco over here for Puppypaw. You see, he does have a lot of food in the bank. Not the gold he needs for Feudal Age, though. I'm not sure if this is by design or this was just some sort of wackiness with the Prelate micro. But whichever the case, he could have had a slightly faster Feudal Age over here. He only leaves one on gold, makes me think that he's not gonna play straight fast castle here, and instead he's dropping an Archon Chapel over here. Now this Archon Chapel, looking at this one, this is going to have the stone inside its aura, as well as the wood, but not the gold. This kinda makes me think that we are going to see a second town center over here. I feel like if you wanted to focus or just play one TC, you would probably have placed the Archon Chapel over here instead. On the other side, Beasty's gonna play into the Hippodrome. It makes actually a lot of sense, given that he already depleted half of his berries, so the Grand Vineries wouldn't give him as much of a boost close to his TC as it would in the case of you not having touched the berries in Dark Age. And Hippodrome also allows you to get some early cavalry going, and that is exactly what you want against the HRE. The principles of this HRE, quote-unquote, struggling against cavalry in Feudal Age also apply in this game. It's not catastrophic for the HRE, but it's definitely a challenge early on, especially against players that do a good job with cavalry micro. You'll be raided non-stop, and even if you have spearmen out there, you might struggle to keep your villagers alive. Early barracks coming in here for Puppypaw, going for a couple of spears. He's going to be the aggressor over here, and the gold mine is definitely exposed for Beasty. Beasty is at 468 of olive oil. I don't see any villagers moving around or sneaking, so we probably won't have a mercenary camp here for French Knights. I've seen Quarterfinals do that once. I think it might have been against Krakady. So it's not unprecedented, but it's a kind of crazy opening, let's just say that. Hippodrome in. Some horsemen will be coming in. Of course, cataphracts are only available in Castle Age, so it's not the same setup that you have for French Knights. But let's not forget about Triumph, because this Triumph is one of the craziest things that you can have for the Byzantines in Feudal Age. You will see that in a second. First horseman moving around. A lot of posturing here in the middle here by Puppypaw. His hunt is being spread out. He's chasing down this one scout with a spear. He is on stone, so I was right about the second TC. And I have a gut feeling that the second TC was meant to be... Actually, the second TC probably won't be sent or won't be built around here. He probably wants to push all this deer all the way into the TC. And right now, Beasty is trying to prevent that. That's why he sent the scout. Now, he might not be able to push in all the deer, but if he gets them a little closer to this gold mine, then the second TC can be placed over here. It's a pain, though. Look at this, Beasty already yoing 3 of the deer. You can still get it up here, but losing 3 carcasses is going to be painful. And now, Puppypaw is facing a choice. Where are you going to place your TC? Are you going to place it here where it's inefficient, well, excluding access to the hunt, but it's not near any secondary resources? Or are you forfeiting these carcasses and just placing it on the gold? So let's talk about Triumph, though, because that's a big thing here. So, bit of fight over here. One of the first things that you want to get here is, of course, Exploratores, a very cheap upgrade, and you get a +2 attack against workers. And that's something the Beast is going to go for. Super cheap of an upgrade, takes only 20 seconds to finish as well. It's a nice little damage boost against Vills. Quite a few spearmen out here for Puppypaw to defend against this one, but he still needs to be cautious not to lose villagers to this. Mercenaries were also spent, or olive oil was spent actually, and it is going to be a company of longbowmen, something that you see very frequently from Byzantine players when they play into the Hippodrome. You have the cavalry, and you want to mix it with some longbows. And this is a very quick addition of longbows. It actually is a lot cheaper to do this than, you know, play ordinary cavalry and play into an archer range and start mass-producing archers. It's not even the resources necessarily, it's more about the timing. At 7 minutes, Beasty can say he's got 5 longbows and 3 horsemen, also serviceable eco as well. You look at Puppypaw, he does have his second type of unit, at least the production building for it, but he doesn't really have the numbers just yet. Longbow's doing a good job focusing down the spears. Love how Beasty focused the high HP one first. That was the higher value target, and then he just retargeted on the other one. Puppypaw, down center, still exposed over here. He is heavy on the Horseman production. Now, Horseman Spearman is known to be able to beat Knight Archer, something that you commonly see in matchups like, let's say, Delhi versus the French, or Abbasids versus the French. In this setup, it's a little trickier, though, because the longbows will have the range advantage. They can actually start picking off Spearmen from a longer distance than usual. And also, let's not forget that you do have all these juicy stuff, especially the Triumph ability for your cavalry, and that health regen is immensely valuable. Some palings dropped over here, like that a lot. Puppypaw has cavalry and Beastie knows it, so he just wants to camp down the hunt right now. Didn't expect the horseman to come in from the other side, but look at this, it's like nuclear missiles being launched from the town center. That horseman is almost dead. Longbow still being annoying, still poking at those villagers. Not a single kill so far for Beastie, but he has gotten a lot of idle time forced, and he has used this window to get a costlage timing going. Nice low counterattack over here by Puppypaw. Gets a good focus on the longbows, and this should be a cleanup over here. Beastie trying to maximize his damage output here. Get a couple more spearmen picked. He's going to be on the way to costlage, though, with the Cistern of the first hill. He still has quite some sheep to work with. Some berries as well. And once he gets to costlage, he can start getting to Catapracts. But this is a scary army here for Puppypaw. And Beastie's gold mine is very much exposed here. No defensive tower, few defensive units, and most importantly, not a single longbowman. No longbowman in queue, nothing right now for Beastie. He only has horsemen, and that army isn't going to be able to stop all these horsemen and spearmen from attacking this position. Even the Cistern is a little exposed, and I feel like it would be catastrophic for Beastie to lose that. Puppypaw, maybe learning a little from the previous game, seeing what Beastie does against high mobility. We'll get a lot of wars going. Love this a lot. He has a power position right now. I feel like he just needs to make sure he doesn't throw away the game. He is definitely not, in a decisively winning position. I think Beastie has tools to salvage this. But Puppypaw has a strong position right now. No reason to risk it. Just get the walls up. Work with the two TCs. You see, he might be thinking about costlage himself. He kind of stopped producing units, only is making some spearmen. Beastie launching a bit of a counterattack. React from Puppypaw. Defensive tower now coming in here for Beastie. Now, let's not forget, Byzantines, their towers are beastly. So even one tower over here is going to be such a strong point for Beastie, and I feel like this retreat from Puppypaw is something I kind of dislike. He's running back home only because 3 horsemen are raiding him. Of course, there is also a bounty over here for these horsemen. So villagers being killed here is good value for Beastie. But I don't like how every single unit from Puppypaw has been sent back home to deal with this, when he had a position to torch down the Cistern of the first hill. It's okay that he bailed from this position. Maybe he was afraid of a future Mangonel emplacement from Beastie. But look at how much he's committing just to chase down a scout and a single horseman. I feel like this is a gross overreaction, even when you consider that now we have some Catapract coming through as well. Beastie's trying to use the trample here. Gets another kill, and there is the flask from the Cistern of the first hill. Very oppressive of an ability here. It keeps recharging, and every time a unit is heavily damaged, if you have a supply of that flask, the unit gets healed. Still, Beast is going to lose both of the Catapracts. He managed to kill 3 villagers in total, but lost a lot of precious units. At the end of the day, it's 25 army to 0, and Puppypaw still has a 9 villagers lead. I feel like Beastie did the right thing, trying to counterattack with the handful of knights he had, or Catapracts, I should say. But the damage that he managed to do was insignificant. And now, if Puppypaw does the right thing, which is essentially pushing, let's say, the Cistern over here, or maybe even the tower that doesn't have any emplacements, then he can easily punish Beastie for this. Beastie is just struggling with numbers right now. He's got exactly 1 Catapract on the field. That Catapract won't even find any room to get in. You see, Puppypaw is now cautious, very cautious, maybe over-cautious even with these walls, but I don't blame him. He definitely felt a little scared about the counterattack potential of these Catapracts. And I still feel like it's a gross overreaction that he has all these spearmen back at home. I feel like he thinks that Beasty has a lot more cavalry than what he actually does. It's easy to speak from my perspective, I see the numbers, but just based on the moves that I'm seeing from Puppypaw, it feels like he is terrified of Beasty's cavalry. If he knew that he's facing only 3 Cataphracts, he would be torching buildings inside the enemy base by now. Good raid over here from Puppypaw. Didn't manage to kill a villager, but he's forcing a lot of idle time here. Sees so many villagers on the front. If only he had a bunch of spearmen that he could send forward. He's gonna get up to Castle Age, and I think Puppypaw's position here is still fairly good. I just feel like he's missing out on a window to punish Beasty very badly. Now, Age of Landmark is going to be the Burgrave Palace, and this is a window, again, that you can utilize to just flood Beasty with a massive amount of units. You already have an army lead, you have a serviceable eco, 59 HRE villagers working right now. You can probably mass-produce men-at-arms, or maybe Landsknechte with the Burgrave Palace and just charge. I feel like he could have done that before, though. At some point, Puppypaw should realize how small Beasty's army is. The window is closing, though, because the Varangian guards are making an appearance. And it's going to make life so much more difficult for all of those spearmen, given that they can just go berserk and wipe out half of the army. Puppypaw is still only using the cavalry. He has 21 spearmen back at home, not using them for anything. Oh, this is such a missed opportunity here for Puppypaw. I keep repeating myself over here, but it is what it is. This is a window that he missed. Again, I don't blame him, though, because if you take a look at his perspective, I feel like he's deprived of information. He sees the double barracks. I still don't think he knows how small the cavalry force is for Beasty. That this is the entire cavalry of Beasty. Some Varangian guards now joining the fun here as well. Puppypaw is still unable to get a single villager kill. He caused some idle time, he did some damage, but he hasn't managed to kill a single villager so far. Crossbows also joined the fun over here, Cataphract, just trampling through this one, but these are expensive units, once again getting taken down. Even the healing ability of the Cistern isn't going to save these Cataphracts, and once again, Beasty takes a very disappointing fight over here. The value destroyed, you might say it's alright, he killed quite a few spearmen, but at the end of the day, he lost so many precious Cataphracts. Good news for him, his Varangian guard numbers are increasing quite a bit. Puppypaw's numbers aren't really rising that much, though. He does have some men-at-arms, he's making some crossbows too. And men-at-arms with maces are alright. When you look at the Varangian guards, they do have 5 melee armor. And when they also go for Berserk, they do have +6 damage. It is a lower melee armor, but men-at-arms with the maces probably gets through your armor anyways. Might as well just go full DPS, I feel. Nice little attempt with the Horseman Raids. Double Monasteries from Beasty, by the way. He's going to start focusing on the relics. There is the Mace upgrade now for Puppypaw. He's going heavy on the ranges as well. He's going to have a lot of crossbows. And it looks like he's finally able to yoink something from the opposing side. Managed to kill that one monk going out for relics. Villagers are actually fighting back over here. First villager will be just now taken down by Puppypaw. At the same time, I don't think he got the notification of this, or he simply didn't notice. Okay, it looks like he now noticed with the walls having been broken through. Crossbows now coming in to clean this up. It's quite a few Varangian guards. Men-at-arms, they do have the maces, but they do not have 200 weapons just yet. Beasty's down by 22 villagers, but he is starting to pick up most of the relics. And he does have a respectable amount of olive oil as well. A bit of a Vololo, not gonna come through. Unit gets killed before the conversion happens. In the meantime, Beasty is taking this fight over here. Varangian guards even on a Berserk, but they do get cleaned up very quickly here. Another raid from Beasty that didn't yield much. I feel like, aside from the psychological element of these raids, these aren't giving much for Beasty. He killed 4 villagers, sure, but the value of army that he lost is just massive. He lost so many Varangian guards, he lost so many Cataphracts. I think the only reason why he hasn't been punished for this is because Puppypaw was extremely cautious. Puppypaw definitely got concerned about these potential raids, and that's why he's keeping so many units back at home. But if he just attacked in the window that we discussed previously, then Beasty would have been in big trouble. Now we're seeing some crossbow coming in as well, and some Limitane as well. Now, you might be looking at this unit and saying, hey, this is a spearman. What do you want with a spearman against men-at-arms and some range units like the crossbows? With the shield wall, if you mix them in with the Varangians, you can actually absorb a lot of arrow fire unless your opponent essentially target focuses on the Varangians. Some crossbows are also being mixed in on the side of Beasty as well. And looks like both sides are kind of slowing things down here, setting up for what could be potentially a long game. Beasty is also having a lot of olive oil. What is that olive oil gonna get used for? Lovely cistern spot over here to boost all this eco out here. He's right now on cistern level 3. So that means that his military production rate in the aura of the cisterns is plus 60%. And he also has plus 15% of the gathering rate buff for the villagers. That's something that's going to somewhat offset the eco boost that the HRE have compared to other civilizations. Walls coming in here from Beasty as well. Puppypaw arriving just in time, but when he arrives, he no longer has that decisive army advantage that he had before. Varangians, though, still getting picked off quickly by the crossbows. Limitanei not using their shield. Actually, shield wall is used over here, so Puppypaw needs to focus down the Varangians one by one. Otherwise, the Limitanei will just soak up so much arrow fire. And this is something that Beasty is using so well over here. It might be a little difficult to distinguish these Limitanei from the Varangians, simply because their shields are so similar graphics-wise. So unless you focus down the Varangians, those spearmen actually absorb a lot of damage over here. Still, numbers are looking better for Puppypaw. He's just not getting the first range defense upgrade, something that he will need given that Beasty's going heavy onto the crossbowmen, but once again, Beasty's numbers aren't there, and for the first time in this game, I feel like Puppypaw is playing a lot more aggressively, and that's exactly what he needs to do here. He's also kind of digging trenches forward, but he's got the window to be aggressive, and that's exactly what he's doing. Goldmine is the primary target right now. He's looping around. Reinforcements are coming in steady, mostly just men-at-arms and a handful of crossbows. Beasty has a couple of monks back home. Has to abandon this cistern, though, and you see so many villagers now being forced to idle. This is some good value for Puppypaw, especially when you consider that he already has 2 sacred sites as well. So that's kind of offsetting the relic advantage that Beasty has. Plus, he's about to capture a 3rd, so he will even start the sacred site timer. There's a workshop on the front, but it won't be able to make any mangonels right now. The moment one pops out, it would be taken down instantly. Beasty, he had a lot of olive oil though. He actually used that for longbows. And it's going to be a great unit against the crossbows. As long as you are under the town center, they also will help just fighting any unit off underneath the town center. I don't think that the men-at-arms can afford to dive underneath here with the crossbows and longbows around. But Puppypaw might still do it, given how large his army advantage is. Looks like Puppy is going to think twice of that, trying to torch down the siege workshop. He knows that a mangonel shot here could be catastrophic. I don't like this engagement, though. Longbows against crossbows is not a good recipe for success here for Puppypaw. I feel like he either needs to commit against all these longbows, or he needs to take down the siege workshop. Mangonel pops out, misses the first shot. Nice reaction from Puppypaw to jump on it, takes it down instantly, and now dives on the longbows. Down center helping out a lot over here. Crossbows also helping out against the men-at-arms, but slowly but surely Beasty's army is just disappearing, and the reinforcements, they are coming in steadily over here. This tower does not have a mangonel emplacement. That could be such a game changer here, I feel. Beasty now forced to abandon his wood line here. Crossbows coming in from all directions, and this might be it for Beasty. So much of his eco is being shut down. He has to flee all the way to the north. His opponent has 3 sacred sites. He's torching down key production buildings, the siege workshop that is. And sure, Beasty made it to the outside, but I feel like this position isn't going to last very long for him. Mangonel emplacement's finally coming in for Beasty. Big question right now, is it too late to save the day? Crossbow still trying to shut down the farming eco. Beasty is down to 300 food per minute. And on the other side, it's just a never-ending flood now. There's a Burgrave Palace. You can keep spamming units at this point, and I think that's what Puppy should do. He's got a lot of crossbows. He's facing essentially no army. He just needs a arrow-resistant unit to dive under the town centers with. Beast is up to 2 TCs now, trying to offset that eco difference. And the Mangonel Tower is helping a lot cleaning up this aggression. but he's down to just 58 eco. Puppypaw with 23 villager kills. And look at this. Look at Puppypaw. He's just going to go straight to the front line, playing very aggressive. Beasty with the counter keep here. Siege Workshop's coming in as well for Puppypaw for some Siege War. There are still some units at the back of Beasty's eco, though, and he's just so confined in his base. Let's not forget, Puppypaw does have the Sacred Site countdown, which shows 7 minutes right now. Still a long time to go, but Beasty doesn't have all day to wait. And it's going to be awfully difficult for him to break out of his base and neutralize any of these Sacred Sites. In fact, Puppypaw should consider walling these in and starting to consider this as a realistic win condition. I think he can finish Beasty off if he wants, but as a secondary win condition, he could wall these in, make it difficult for Beasty to just sneak a unit out and decap this, so that Beasty not only has to defend his base, but also needs to decap one of his Sacred Sites. Puppypaw, double Siege Workshops now, make it triple. He's gonna go heavy on the Trebuchets. Other side, Trebuchet is also coming in here for Beasty. No Springolds on either side so far. Gold has been denied on this side, and looks like this gold is also untouched by Beasty. And looks like Beasty is just going to call it. I feel like this was the right thing for him to do. Beasty kind of confined into his base, nowhere to go, facing 3 Sacred Sites, an overwhelming army, and Beasty is just going to throw the towel in, which means that we will get a 3rd game here in this beautiful series. What a lovely, lovely series so far. This really came down to just this massive army numbers advantage that we had for Puppypaw throughout the game, actually. He had his window here, even. There were so many windows for Puppypaw, but he played very cautiously. He wasn't really punished for that, though, and in the end, just that double TC HR eco ground down Beasty. Beasty was never really able to build up a massive force. He tried a lot of counterattacks, but none of those really worked out. When you see this villager graph, you see a drop at 1830, for instance. Look at Beasty's count here, army count, that is. This is the amount of units for Beasty, army-wise, that he surrendered or that he forfeit for... actually, never mind, I'm a little dumb over here, never mind me. I think this is a better spot to look at this. It's like 16 minutes, let's compare that. Yeah, this is a better spot. This is a raid from Beasty, where he lost a bunch of units for what is essentially a villager or 2. This one was actually the Puppypaw counterattack. Anyway, that takes us back to the lobby, and now we have another game to take a look at. Puppypaw evening this out. Let's take a look at what game number 3 is going to look like. Looks like we are going into game number 3. French versus Byzantines is going to be the setup over here. This time around, it is going to be Beasty in command of the French and Puppy with the Byzantines. To the left, it is Beasty in orange, and to the right, we are going to have Puppypaw playing as the blue. The map is Himayana, and we are going to have, let's see, an interesting setup over here. Boar-wise, this is intriguing. You do have this boar spot here for Beasty, which is very lovely. Hunt plus boar. Kind of the same available on the other side for Puppypaw, but it's a lot more offset compared to the Central Lake. Speaking of the Central Lake, the Shorefish spawn is definitely a lot friendlier towards Beasty in this setup. Gold mines, kind of better for Puppypaw, though. They're all pretty far away from the town center, but there is this one tucked away and well wallable. Whereas for Beasty, both of his gold mines are rather close, and they are also difficult to defend. Again, to reiterate, in this tournament, you do pick the civilization for your opponent. So it was the French that was given to Beasty by Puppypaw, and Puppypaw was the one receiving the Byzantines here from Beasty. Now, the big difference between the approach that Beasty has taken with the Byzantines and what Puppypaw is taking is that Puppypaw is going heavy on the sheep here, makes it much more legitimate to play into the vineyards, But I don't think that the classic Vineyard Fast Castle build that you commonly see from Byzantine players would work well against the French. I feel like you need something out against the French. If nothing else, just a couple of limit on A. But you also might need some more map presence, especially if Beastie is thinking about moving out towards the boar or the shorefish. So far, no players has moved out for a dock, and I don't think that's going to happen at any point. But I do believe that Beastie is going to go for this hunt over here. I would not be shocked if he played second DC in this game. On that note, I need to add a point as well to Puppypaw, so that should be right there for you now. Apologies for that. It's even Steven. This is the decider game in this best of 3. And it looks like we are going to have the Vinery here. Kinda... Whoa! Vinery cancelled. Hippodrome placed in lieu. Interesting position as well for the Hippodrome. Normally, the doctrine of base building tells you that you want your production buildings on the front, because that kind of shortens the travel time between the production building and the enemy base. That's especially true when you want to play into aggressive buildings, like, let's say, a School of Cavalry. Let's say a cavalry production building like the Imperial Hippodrome as well. So, it's an interesting position. I don't think this is going to conceal it much from Beastie, but I also wouldn't read much into this placement. Might just be a slight efficiency thing. On the other side, School of Cavalry on the front here for Beastie. No surprise on that on that front, I guess. Berries coming in just to grab Wheelbarrow as usual. A very classic French build so far from Beastie. Big question, of course, Puppypaw. Is my opponent going for a second town center? So far, no villagers are visible on the stone, but he does see quite a few villagers on gold. This should be telling that Beastie isn't just going to make one knight and then call it a day, but this could be quite a few knights coming in from Beastie. Barracks will come in as well for the limit on A, so we'll have this spearman plus horseman composition that's known to be very efficient against the French. And I feel like the targets are set here for Puppypaw. There's the gold mine. Even the stone mine would be exposed if Beastie decided to go for second TC, which I don't think he will. But if this is a 1 TC Knight Archer build from Beastie, I feel like the Byzantines have a great matchup against that with their horsemen and the limit on A. The Hippodrome complete. Limit on A now making an appearance as well. Let's see what Beastie is up to. He's going heavy on the wood, and now he's shifting to stone, so there will be a second town center after all. Now, this is tricky, because this is a very... It's not a super late shift to stone, but it's not really an early one either. And Puppypaw already passed the stone deposit. So right now, Puppypaw might not be aware that Beastie is going to play second TC. He could eventually scout this, but right now his scout is back at home, so this intel might come in delayed. And especially because Beastie went for quite some gold in the bank, he's gonna be able to fill the 2 knights. So I think by the time Puppypaw realizes that there's a second town center coming up, he probably won't be in a position to deny it. I think Beastie is going to have that complete without Puppypaw knowing about it. Knight trying to get a freebie over here, was scouted by Puppypaw. Limit on A protecting the lumberjacks for the time being. Beastie scouting for villagers to kill. Looks like that intel will actually come in sooner for Puppypaw. He's heading towards the gold mine. Lack of villagers on the gold should tell him that something is going on. And you see, Beastie has to rally the second knight back to the stone mine. Because, as I said, these villagers shifted to the stone fairly late. So because of that, they're actually exposed to this aggression here. Nice little defense by Beastie, anticipating the push on the stone. And we're going to have some walls coming up over here from Puppypaw. He started doing that in the previous game. And I think he also kind of considers the happenings of game number 1, where he was the French player with the aggression, and he just wasn't able to get anything going, simply because Beastie's walls made it near impossible to flank with the cavalry. Now this map is a lot more open, but I love how he's just limiting the surface that his opponent can attack with these walls. Would be lovely to see some walls over here as well. And to be frank, I would love some walls here too. That would make that base fairly safe and secure. One knight has to be stationed on this stone mine. Means that Beastie's raiding potential is somewhat more limited. He's now mixing in some archers as well. Does have a horseman out too. He doesn't have access to the gold, or well, he technically could access the gold. There aren't really any enemy units denying it. But he was just on the stone, so he actually went for a horseman, so he's got some more cavalry. And look at this. Puppypaw knows fully well that the most optimal spot for a second town center, especially for a civilization that consumes food as quickly as the French do, is going to be the hunt. That's why the Limitanai is patrolling this area, and the horsemen are also around here. Puppypaw is trying to catch an expansion towards food, and he knows fully well that Beasty either hasn't yet placed the town center, or it's at a very suboptimal spot, and he didn't manage to secure any additional food with it. And I think this is big right now for Puppypaw. He's playing a food denial game against a civilization that's extremely vulnerable on the food front. The backbone of the French army is the knight. Knights are extremely food heavy. If you get cut off from both of your hunts, and you only have to do this with essentially sheep and just berries, that's disappointing. And it looks like, you see, Beasty just cannot spend that stone. Any resource that you do not spend is a pain. If you think about it, Beasty spends so much villager time on mining stone, and he just cannot use it to anything right now. Eventually, it will turn into a town center, but at the same time, Puppypaw also got the stone he needed, and he could get that second town center a lot quicker than Beasty can. Finally, this is gonna get placed here on the hunt, but Beasty cancels it. I don't think he feels confident about fighting this. The limit on I can go for shield wall means that the archers will struggle to pick them off. And it looks like the TC is now coming up. I think Puppypaw knows that this is the case, but he might just be content with the fact that he's also able to get his own second town center up at the same time as his opponent's first or second TC is being constructed. So it's going to be a 2 TC game, but I'm still somewhat surprised how easily Puppypaw has given up this position. He also could have maybe kind of tried to split up the deer. We've seen Beasty trying to do that in the previous game. Just pushing away deer, killing them at far away spots from each other. Making sure that the town center that your opponent is placing there is as inefficient as humanly possible. Not something that we really saw from Puppypaw over here. So this is a good town center for Beasty. Puppy, just sitting behind a layer of walls though. Side note here with the new patch, or essentially the DLC patch that we have, now walls snap to these gold mines as well. Means that these walls will make this gold mine safe, at least until archers do not show up. Looks like both sides will go for a little skirmish with the cavalry, but they should not be able to accomplish much. Now this is a big thing. Puppypaw, I don't think he knows about this opening, and indeed, this is a big issue for Puppypaw. Beasty has scouted this. He has definitely scouted this, and he's going to use that at one random moment to punish his opponent. This could easily be a game-losing hole here for Puppypaw. Cavalry on both sides trying to get something going over here. Healing coming in here through Triumph by Puppypaw, and gets a good raid going. Nice little raid over here. Villagers cannot all garrison into the town center. You only have 7 spots in there, but not a single villager here falls from Beasty. It's mostly the archers that have been killed. Nice little micro by Beasty, keeping the low HP villagers away from combat. At the same time, he wasn't able to accomplish much on the enemy gold mine, so he's going to get repelled. I don't like this fight for Puppypaw, though. He didn't kill any eco. He killed a handful of archers, but the efficiency is not there. 1,000 resources value lost as compared to 500 destroyed. Doesn't seem like a good trade to me. We also didn't have this upgrade, Expilatores, here for Puppypaw. Something that would have been very beneficial when it comes to trying to get a couple of villager picks. That +2 damage would have been so nice. Western mercenary contract coming in, as you expect. He wants to play into a couple of longbows. And given that Beasty only has a handful of knights, 30 Limitanai plus a couple of longbows, that could be a scary army for Beasty to face. Now Beasty was trying to head towards this hole here, something that Puppypaw is still unaware of. Beasty now with the blacksmith, also goes for range defense. Now he's shifting that way. I think Puppypaw sees that. Puppypaw should realize that something is up here, just based on the posturing of Beasty's cavalry. He might think it's the berries, though. This is such a cat and mouse game right now. Beasty needs to be very cautious where he moves. If he starts moving to the right side with a clear intent, Puppypaw might realize that his base is still open. And I don't think Puppypaw knows this still. I think Puppypaw thinks that Beasty just wanted to attack these berries. Now Beasty's trying to break in here. One knight gets past, chased down by millions of spearmen. Should not be able to accomplish much though, with the defensive tower also being there on the gold mine. Tries to charge the villager. Nice little jump out here by Puppypaw. Kind of trying to body block that one knight. Also making sure that there is enough space for this damaged villager to jump inside. Beasty cannot show this hole to Puppypaw. He just cannot use this to escape. Villager count starting to go in the favor of Beasty, as you would expect from the French, of course. You still have that villager production bonus on your TCs. On the other side, of course, we do have the olive oil, though, which is going to help you get a decent amount of longbows out. We already have 5 of them out, and I think the second batch is coming in. Beasty's going siege engineering, though. Looks like he wants to push this, but I'm not so certain if he can. He's got 8 knights. That's a respectable amount. But when you consider that you are facing what will soon be 10 longbows to pick off your own archers, and the enemy Limitanae can just go shield wall against your archers, it might be difficult to kill these Limitanae, which limits the combat abilities, or at least what you can accomplish with these knights. Eco upgrades are also slowly trickling in on both sides, and it looks like once again Beasty is trying to posture around the area. Oh, this could be the lucky moment here for Puppypaw. He's trying to wall off the northern side, expanding his base essentially, trying to get this board for himself. And if he secures this area, that kind of removes this element of the gameplay, this hole being here. Still no intent from either player to go into Castle Age. Eco's slightly better for Beasty, but part of this is him being on the board already. Whereas for Puppypaw, he's been on the berries for some time. In fact, he's very heavy on the berries. Of course, side effect of that is getting a decent amount of olive oil. He also started mixing in olive groves, so he is already making a farm transition, whereas that's not something that Beasty is doing. Granted, this map has a lot of hunt and berries to work with, so Beasty still has a lot of backup food to work with, which means that it's not so urgent for him to get that farm transition going. I think this is a big difference between game number 1 that Puppypaw played with the French, or the French variant, and this game. There, Puppypaw was a lot more strained on food, and he had to make a farm transition a lot sooner. Here, Beasty can play with this setup, no farms, for quite some time. Knights coming in, supported by some archers. Blacksmith upgrades are kind of lacking over here for Puppypaw. He only has range defense, that's the only thing he has. Beasty's kind of well set up in that department. Now gets Chivalry. Walls are the primary target, no second layer behind them, but here comes the Horde from Puppypaw. I think he has quite a lot of Triumph tickets that he could utilize. Looks like Limitanae will come in. Scout could actually fall victim. That's a Horseman, never mind. It looks like a bait, to be honest. It looks like a Scout in that group of Knights. But no Scout with the... Actually, there is a Scout, but that's still full HP. A little difficult to discern the two, especially when they're orange, but... Anyway, back we are, and now Puppypaw does have the hunt. A lot of hunting. I'm actually surprised he isn't going for the boar. He could have done that. He is going to focus on the hunt. I feel like the mentality here is that he wants to take this exposed deposit before falling back to something that's a little bit more tucked away at the back and secure. Love these walls, though. I really feel like he's playing this Onion of Warfare strategy, where he's just building layer after layer after layer, never letting Beasty use the mobility of the cavalry. Scout gets picked off here, depriving Beasty of all line of sight. And now the longbows, they can use that range advantage from behind the walls. Walls weren't completed, though, so it's easy to torch through them. Now Limitanae will engage this. They are in shield wall. They should be in shield wall, actually. That means that the archers struggle a lot more to pick them off. Looks like Beasty is going to hold the knights back for the time being. Good engagement, apparently, for Beasty. The spearmen aren't really able to touch his knights so far, and that's a lot of archers for Beasty. Knights going down on the southern side of the battlefield, but numbers are just disappearing for Puppypaw. And the knights, with their tankiness, plus the archers, the massive amount of archers that we have over here for Beasty, just seem too overwhelming here for Puppypaw, whose food eco is just so exposed here. This might be it for Puppy. Beastie went super heavy on all these archers, and I feel like that was one of the big difference makers between the two players. The archer component from Puppypaw was limited by the availability of olive oil, whereas for Beastie, he just went mass archers. 31 archers against what initially was around 10 to 15 longbows. Now it's only down to 6 longbows. It's a pure numbers game now for Beastie. He's going to focus down the remains of Puppypaw's army. And all signs seem to point towards Beastie being the one advancing to the semifinals tomorrow, taking out Puppypaw over here. Just no army left anymore. Reinforcements coming in constantly for Beastie, and as I said, his food eco is still alright. He doesn't need to transition to farms. He can finish this game without a single farm having been built. Puppypaw still trying to clean this up, but just trickling in units one by one won't help you. Villagers now getting caught in the crossfire. Massive casualties for Puppypaw. 10 villagers lost, now he's down by 17 compared to his opponent. And you see, it's only a handful of longbows and some horsemen to clean this up with. And when the numbers start dropping for Beastie, he's just going to sacrifice this army, pick off some more vills. In fact, the time for that might have already come. Puppy rallying the vills over here to try and make something happen. But this is just a desperate effort. Frankly, this is the moment where he finds out about this hole. It didn't end up being a factor. It was just a pure numbers game. The cleanup is there, but the cost is way too high for Puppypaw. He's down to 60 eco, Beastie up to 91, and he's still losing more villagers, and there's a second wave on the way as well. This army gets cleaned up finally, but it's still 124 population against 70. The eco of Puppypaw is very close to just collapsing. He was cut off from the deer, he was cut off from the boar. He at least has some farming eco set up, but I just don't see him surviving the next wave. Beastie needs to be cautious about these rams though. They are very much exposed. Puppypaw should try to yoink some of them to at least decrease the strength of this aggressing army. But I just don't feel like... this army is enough to stop what Beastie has. Eventually he's gonna have to fight this, but he's just trying to get some more strength. Behind this, Beastie's eco is so much better though. Horsemen jump on the battering ram, good value there. One of those go down. Knights ready to charge in though. Rams knocking on the cisterns as well. Beastie is deliberately targeting those to weaken the enemy economy even more so. In fact, now he's just taking out the aqueduct to lower the level. Dives in. Next target is going to be the town center over here. Takes the fight underneath the TC. Healing is in there for Puppypaw, and he does have 16 horsemen. He rallied his forces in here. Beastie coming in with a couple of spearmen to deal with these, though. His knights are still standing strong. And the longbowmen are just nowhere to be found anymore. Only 7 of them on the field against 31 archers. Horsemen once again getting picked apart. It's a raw numbers game, you feel. Destroyed value is there. The efficiency is okay for Puppypaw. It's just the number is not being there. That's the momentum that Beastie got from the hunt, from the berries. Actually, not the berries, but the boar. Shorefish as well. Beastie's food eco is just insane. 2100 food per minute. And you see it on the battlefield. That's the big difference between the two. And I feel like it probably comes from the fact that Puppypaw went for this farm transition. He had a good farming eco setup. If this game was very long, Puppypaw would have had a window, but I just feel like Beastie could leverage all that extra food he got from the boar, the hunt, the shorefish, and turn that into numbers. I think that breakout is well visible on the army chart. The initial fight, numbers were relatively even, but Beastie had a higher quality due to the knights, and that's something that's visible here. Numbers were even, but the quality was so much better for Beastie. He did a great job holding back the knights until quite a few of the Limitanei were picked off. Made it much more difficult for Puppy to finish off those knights. And even though many of the knights also fell, the big difference was that Puppypaw was cut off from food, and he never really was able to rebuild that army anymore. With that, Beastie is the one securing this round here. Lovely, lovely set here in the Draft of Empires tournament. Once again, this event has been hosted by Blade. I will put a link down in the description of this video to check out his YouTube and Twitch channels. He's a high-level player himself, but he is the organizer and the caster of this event. Beastie taking out Puppypaw over here. He is going to be awaiting his opponent in the semifinals tomorrow, which I will also try to cast if I have time for it. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed. If you did, make sure you subscribe to this channel. It helps me greatly. Throw a like on this video. That also helps a lot. And I'm hoping to see you in the next cast. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.